Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to another. I'm sorry, I got tongue tied. And welcome back to another episode of Beautiful I Am Colored. This is the place where I share some insights and perspectives I've gleaned throughout my week, and from time to time I do have interview guests from time to time. Oh my gosh, I really chopped up that intro this week. Oh well. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Not going to be too lengthy today. Today is going to be more of a setup for next week's topic. I am beginning a new series titled Empty Nesters, and that series will last over the next 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how cooperative my spouse is. And we're just going to cascade and talk about some of the things so far as new empty nesters we're experiencing, and tie that into marriage in general, and some of the benefits of staying together. But before I get started, I want to just let you know, if you're interested, you can follow me on Instagram at Beautiful I Am Colored, on my website at beautifuliamcolored.com. I post frequently throughout the week, usually just well wishes and sometimes interesting quotes. From time to time, I also post videos when I get a little hoppy on Instagram. On my website, you can find my book titled Beautiful I Am Colored in paperback as well as ebook form. So if you're interested in those things, please feel free to check me out there. As always, I'm so honored that you have taken time out of your day to spend time with me. And as you know, for several weeks now, I like to begin each podcast by having a moment of gratitude, and just in the segment title, shout outs and thank yous. And this week's shout out and thank yous, there's quite a lot, but this week's shout out and thank you goes to not necessarily a person, but more of a concept of consistency. And I'm grateful, I will say, for consistency, because it truly does make, like, the proof is in the pudding, right? Lack of consistency, as well as consistency in general, meaning you are incorporating several habits or changes throughout your week, day, month, etc., that build upon something, whatever that something is. For me, you all know that I have been working on my physical fitness, as well as spirit, mind, soul too. And so for several weeks, I have been using my Run app. We have since stopped eating what I'm calling land animals. So pescatarian diet mostly, sometimes vegetarian. And I'm just seeing such great benefits in being consistent in not eating meat products. Now, have I gotten rid of all animal byproducts? No. By that I mean I would still eat cheese, still eat eggs from time to time, but not as much as I used to. And so as a result, the positive signs that I'm seeing really have to do with my joints. Like my joints no longer have that sharp ache in them after I get like over 2.5 miles when I'm walking or jogging. Today I was able to complete a little bit over 4 miles today, and while I was a little bit tired, because I needed water, to be honest, I didn't have those aches and pains that I typically would, and that's been the biggest benefit. So I just want to say, for those of you who are continuing down a path of, getting your life all the way together, all the wraparound services, if you would allow me to use that phrasing for this context. For all of you who are getting yourself together, and your physical body means something to you, and you're taking care of your temple, shout out to you for consistency. If you have fallen off the rocker, so to speak, and you just got off a tempo, and you let a good time last a little bit too long, and it's rolled over into days and weeks and months, hey, it's okay. Jump back on, get back on. I'm nowhere near the goal that I anticipate being at, but I can tell you I'm getting better every day. So this week's shout out and thank you goes to consistency. And I hope everyone applies that to their life. Which sets me up for the next segment. But before I cascade into Empty Nester Part 1, which is more going to serve as an introductory for the next several weeks, I'm going to take a quick little break, and then I'll be right back. Thanks so much. Be back, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience while I did that little ad commercial. So diving right in to set us up for the next few weeks here. The next few weeks, my husband, Marlon Barnes, will be joining me off and on as he is able. I tried to get him on today, but he was not having it. And so, but next week, he will be on and really just diving into this topic of the next season of life that we're facing, which I do know that the majority of my listeners, you may not fall into this category yet. Just because of the age demographic. But I do feel like we will touch on some points that will definitely help maybe bring some different insights and perspectives that you haven't thought about before as it specifically pertains to Black marriages and why I feel very strongly that we are better together. Now, before some of y'all start rolling your eyes at the top of your head, and I can see a few of y'all right now, before you start rolling your eyes at the top of your head, let me just say this. This is not to say that these principles can apply to any other couple group. But when I think about the state of Black folks in general in this country, we can tie everything back to the nucleus, right? We can tie everything back to the family unit and how fragmented it has been consistently for well over the past 50 years now in the United States. And there are some systematic structures, no doubt, that have contributed to this dismantling of the family unit across the board, no matter the race or ethnicity. However, particularly for Black couples in general, I do feel strongly that some of the things that we're up against, other groups just aren't up against. And so it's very important to start to talk about those things and acknowledge those things and how they play into the success or the lack of success within our relationships. With that being said, in the coming weeks, you can expect to hear different topics. I'm at the beginning stages of doing some deep dive research in terms of looking into our Black researchers who have data, hard points, and research about this topic to see if I can get them on the podcast and or by video recording through my YouTube channel. But while I'm waiting on that, I do think it's important to note that we will touch on such topics as, like how do you transition when you don't know how to transition to the next season of life? For example, with Marlon and I, we've never lived by ourselves. We were teen parents. We got married when we were teens, late teens, but we got married when we were teens. And so for us, we really needed help in terms of kind of just pivoting with it just being us in the house now, which has been amazing, to be honest with you, because we're friends first, thankfully. So that's helped us. But we really had to seek out some professional help. By that, I mean, we had to employ a therapist on the team to get us to work through some different communication styles so that we can match how we have evolved as a couple and individuals. And I have to say, shout out to Dr. Eldridge Greer here in the Denver metro area. If you don't know him, I encourage you to look him up. We just finished up a month of just kind of really fine tuning and really maintenance work. We didn't have any major things that we needed to talk about or discuss, but I think one of the key things about therapy is that you can also use it for maintenance. And that is, you can get ahead of things before they come, before they arise. And to me, it's better to be proactive than reactive, knowing that therapists are there for both instances. But I like to use therapy, too, as a form of maintenance. And so it was very helpful and very insightful the past several weeks, meeting with him weekly and kind of discussing through some hiccups, that we've had along the way. So definitely talking about that, how to navigate new seasons of life. Again, Marlon will be joining me next week to discuss that. Second, I've been married as long as I have, which is 26 plus years now. Things change, including sex. And so navigating that too, and it not being, a horrible 3-letter word to talk about. And also for it not to be, how can I say this? Pimped out in a way that is not sacred. And so talking about that, talking about, of course, and encouraging the important role of counseling, particularly for us, Black therapists. I just feel like in the United States, definitely that we, as a community, glean more. And I'm sure that I'll have people out here who say, well, it shouldn't matter, and I get that and much respect to you. But my perspective is that I think we learn best from each other. And so starting with, people who identify with you and can acknowledge from an experiential standpoint some of the things, that you've gone through. Additionally, I think it's important to note that we are not alone, right? There are actually a ton of Black thriving couples in America, but there has been such a huge emphasis. I don't know if you all have noticed this lately or not, but I have definitely noticed, and to a discouraging point, to be honest with you, there is a lot of bashing and blame shifting going on in the Black community, specifically between Black men and Black women. The Black men bashing, the Black women bashing, and not necessarily the dialogue that is moving us forward to a place that we can come together. And I think that is one of the things that is preventing us from advancing and being as successful as we can be. Now, shout out to all the independent Black women in the streets, and particularly, people I know personally who are doing big things. Shout out to all of you. But I want to just give you a little bit of a point and a perspective to think about. You're doing well, Black women. There's no doubt about it. Listen, I just had to, many of you know, and I apologize for that background. Something fell down, so I had to fix it here. I had been applying for jobs since I graduated from law school and interviewing. And this one application process took me like 2 hours because it's so archaic dealing with the federal judicial system. But the gist of it is this. I had to review some of like my old transcripts in order to submit this application. And I was like, oh my God, shit, kind of smart. Like, my undergraduate degree, I had a 3.5, my first master's, I had a 3.91. And then the latest law degree, master's in legal studies, was a 3.5 as well. And I was like, dang, okay. And so my point is this, Black women, I can relate. We are our overachievers, super achievers. We are the go-getters. I get it. But how much more could we be if we combined our resources with a like-minded individual, and how amazing that would be to advance the success rate and just honestly repairing the damage that has been done within the Black family unit. Just something to think about. I know marriage is not for everybody, and this is not something I'm forcing down your throat. However, I do know when you have a strong partner who bring in other things to the table that you might not be as strong in, I do know that makes the collective even more stronger and more powerful. And so taking a deep dive into talking about those things as well in the coming weeks. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about parenting. I know I haven't talked a lot about that on this channel on my podcast. But the reason is because for us, I definitely value our adult children and the spaces that they're in. And I want to, how can I say this? I want to continue to treat that with the nurture and gentleness that it deserves, in terms of not sharing too much, knowing that they are still on their own evolutionary process. And so I typically don't get into specifics with the kids, however, the young adults rather, but I do think it is important context to understand, like even parenting styles and stuff, and the evolution of that. How I parented it in my 20s is definitely not how I parent, now in my 40s. And so that being an area as well. Anyhow, I think you get the gist of the introduction in terms of this next topic and series that I'm going to cascade into, which might be sometimes a little bit academic. I actually am at the beginning stages of researching some academic scholarly work as it pertains to this subject, to see how I can fold it in to the podcast, into the conversation, and also so that you can be equipped and look up some of this information for yourself. I was talking to a friend recently, and I was just reminding them that, where focus goes, energy flows. And I forget who coined that phrase. I am definitely not the originator, and I definitely want to pay homage to whoever out there coined it. I don't know who that is, but I do know that is true. And so the more you focus your intentions, the more you listen to things that are in contrast to actually what you desire, you're going to get that outcome, right? So the onus is on you, meaning you are responsible for you. You are responsible who you're hanging around with, who you're listening to the most, what music you're listening to, what's vibing you out. And I'm not saying that there's a time and place for everything, because God knows that there is. But what I am saying is when you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you're in a season of change, then you are responsible for getting yourself around people. And sometimes, let me just say this, because this is stirred up in me for a second. I was talking to one of our young adults recently, and was just talking about how sometimes you're not going to have that physical friend in person, right? You're not going to have that. Like, for example, you might be listening, it's like, well, it would be nice to just have a conversation like with a person. It would, wouldn't it? I wish that a lot for my own self. But the truth of the matter is sometimes we have not secure those relationships to where we have that. And sometimes even if we do have that, that person may not be available because they might be as busy as you are. That being said, you can control your environment by, linking up with people who are on YouTube or different podcasts that are on the subject matter, or reading a book. Oh my God, the cheapest and easiest way, honestly, is reading books, reading articles that fuel you. All of those contribute to a successful, well-rounded life. But again, the onus is on you to do that. If you are a parent of little ones who don't have that level of cognitive development to where they can be responsible for themselves yet, then you can read to your child. I cannot tell you how many times I used to read to my kids and, take them to the library when they were little and stuff like that. You will be surprised how much kids remember in their later years when they become young adults. Okay, I feel like I have been going on and on without even a breath this week. But this is just a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. I hope that you'll stay tuned in the coming weeks. Again, Marlon said that I did not give him advance notice enough. Look at him. To come on today, especially to be on camera, which is why this one is not going to have a video component. But in the following weeks, I'm going to try to get him to commit to, if not the entire series, at least 2 or 3, because I just feel like that balance in the male perspectives is so greatly needed and important, especially for where we are now. In the meantime, what I want to say is thank you so much for listening, as always. Happy back to school week for a lot of you here on the West Coast. I know a lot of people, students, teachers, parents, families are going back to school tomorrow, Monday, the 22nd. So have a great first week of school. And in the meantime, you can catch me on Instagram at Beautiful I Am Colored, and on my website at beautifuliamcolored.com, where of course you can find my book as well as ebook version if you're so inclined to order, which I hope that you do consider doing that. In the meantime, remember, the future you is waiting on you, and I look forward to diving into this topic multi-part series in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to the next few weeks. And until next time, beautiful, have a great week, everyone.